would you like your webcam to go from this to something along the line of this? If you have an old DSLR laying around of the EOS kind from Canon, Canon actually released a driver that you can use to make your DSLR into a webcam. The way to do that is just simply opening up your Chrome browser and simply Googling EOS webcam utility. And that will take you to a page that looks something like this. I'll put a link in the description, and you can download the driver for Mac and Windows. When you install that driver, you can then connect your camera using a USB cable, and then you can simply use it as any other webcam device. Just keep in mind, it has a list here of DSLR cameras that it's supposed to be compatible with. But it is compatible to a lot more than this. I've even heard that people using the 450D has even gotten it to work. I'm using the 550D and I had no problems getting this thing to work. Also know that the webcam will look something like this. If you want the corners here to disappear, you have to use OBS or something just to cut off the corners. But you don't have to worry about that. But if you're using OBS, just know that you have a source here for great lens and optics compared to like your flat webcam. Of course, the problem is that you won't get 60 frames per second, and this is running at 720p. If you have a more professional camera, you can probably get this up to HD and probably up to 60 frames. But if you have an older camera, then you might have to worry about your resolution. I don't really care because this looks beautiful compared to this. I was actually quite surprised to find it. It was created in 2021, so in the middle of the pandemic. So I guess that Canon actually saw the potential for a driver like this. I used to use to do video logs before, but it was quite a hassle because the camera actually stopped recording after half an hour. But with this driver, you don't have to have the screen on, so the camera won't get as hot as it did with using the EOS utility. So one thing you should know, if you look at my OBS window here, you can see that, right? When adjusting my Razer camera, I can just press on Razer and press Properties, and then go to Configure Video, and then I have full control over my camera right here. If you do the same thing with the EOS camera and press Properties and Configure Video, nothing will happen. And the reason for that is because the controls on this camera are all manual. They're in the house of the actual DSLR. So the only way to actually adjust this camera is to go to the back of the camera and just setting in all like the f-stop and the shutter speed manually. Also remember white balance, really important. Or you can download or install the EOS utility program. Now, the EOS utility program really won't work as long as I have the DSLR active in any other window. So you have to close down Zoom or OBS or Discord or whatever is using your camera, or you just have to remove the source. So I'm just going to do that now so you can see it. So I'm going to go into EOS and I'm just going to take away this and just go to OBS camera instead. And that will essentially make my DSLR camera stop working. Now these camera settings will work. If I had just not changed this to gray or closed my program, these buttons wouldn't be available. But now I can go into remote shooting. And this is quite practical for when you're setting up your camera for the first time. Just go to live, view live shot. And it will take up an extra image like this, where you can control the image of your camera. And here you have the option to control your f-stop and your shutter speed and your ISO. Just remember that if you want to control these things, you have to first set your camera to manual on the little twisty knob up there. Don't set it to video, don't set it to shutter, don't set it to f-stop, just manual. because then you have full control over your camera. Just hover over one of these settings and use your mouse to scroll up and down to control the different things, like the shutter speed. Now remember to put the shutter speed in something that is easily divided by 30. So 30, 60, 120, and so forth. The reason for that is because the output on this video is 30 frames per second. So you want to match that with your shutter speed, so you don't get any fractal lines. Also, the f-stop controls also how much focus you can keep. And DSO is like over-exaggerating, which is fine. You can use a lot of ISO because the resolution on this will not be any bigger than 720. So you can pull that all the way up so you get all the extra light that you need. So you don't need like the studio setup that I have. And also, remember your white balance. And the easiest way to do the white balance, just get a white piece of paper, press the little pipette here, and just select your white sheet, and it will adjust the image to that. When you're done setting up your image and you're happy with your frame and your colors and your static, one more thing that you have to remember is, of course, the focus. And either you can have it on autofocus and then you have to push the focus here on button here, or you can do like I did, just flip a little switch over to manual and just simply reach out and adjust it yourself. If you have trouble to see if things are in focus, remember you can always zoom in, set the focus where you want it, and then zoom back out, and it should be pretty close to the same place. Now that the image is set up, you can close this again. And now the camera should, in theory, be available again here. So I'm going to go into EOS. I'm going to go and select from the drop down here the EOS webcam utility. You will hear a little click as it opens its mirror, and that's the image we get. The first time you put this into OBS, it will be like this, because that's the actual image you get. 170 with a black frame around it, which doesn't look very good. The way to fix that in OBS, if you have OBS, is just use Alt and pull in the frames to crop your image. If you're using Zoom or any other program, then you're going to have to live with it. Or you simply just download OBS because it's free, and also download the virtual camera, and then you can use OBS as your webcam. A simple yet very practical little program from Canon. So tack ska ni ha, Sverige. That was a really nice thing to have. So I'll probably be going back to my Canon DSLR now to make some of my content, which is nice. But I'll still use my good old trusty Razer camera here just to put in some detail shot. And what's really cool now is that I can actually run a dual camera setup. Just have to make some more adjustments here so I can actually cut between them. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was informative and you got something out of it. And I hope that you left the video early if you just wanted to figure out where to get it. Of course, all the links are in the description. And thank you guys so much for watching. And I guess I'll talk to you next time.